All right, it looks like I am finally on. Took a few seconds to connect, but looks really good. So yeah, hello everyone and welcome to the stream. I'm just gonna double check to make sure that the sound is good before I continue, so just hang on. Let's see here. I am finally on. Yes, okay, sound is good. So welcome to this week's stream. I've got the live chat also on the side here, so hoping that that works out as well. This week we're going to be talking about how and what kind of I was unprepared for when I was diagnosed with IIH and migraines. So there's some things that you kind of learn to expect or kind of expect that you kind of do end up have happening, but there's a lot of things that happen during this journey that you're unprepared for. Now, I got this actually from a article I found online that had similar type of things with it. But before we get too far into this video, let's play the intro. All right, welcome back. So, as I was saying, this is essentially about things I was unprepared for when I was diagnosed with migraines and IIH. Before we get too far into this, though, I do want to just say sorry about no stream last week. So, I was actually working late again, and I was also on a pretty significant stretch, so I just didn't have the energy to do a stream. These streams, now that I do these notes and make all of these different sections now, do take a little bit of time to do, but I hope that it adds a little bit more to the stream. So the first one I'm gonna actually be getting into is the people I would lose and gain throughout this journey. So, the people one of the things I was unprepared for was the people I would lose, but also gain in my life. I lost a lot of people who I thought were close and would be there for me no matter what. Thankfully, the ones that matter the most have been extremely supportive. This actually points to a really important thing. So there's a lot of people who lose everyone close to them when they get diagnosed with a chronic illness. It happens due to a lot of reasons, but thankfully for me this didn't happen. I know that there's a lot of people though that will lose people that they're very, very close to, and it's unfortunate that it does happen, but it happens. I also found a community of wonderful people, all of you, that are all just trying to understand the challenges that we're going through together though. And that's why I originally started this channel, was not only so that I could vent out my frustrations, but that people who are kind of at the start of this journey have not only some informational things that they can kind of look through, but so that you kind of get that community support. Now, there's great places online that you can often find this support. There's often great support groups, but I find these support groups are kind of a negative thing sometimes, because you get all of the woo-woo alternative medicine type things, or people suggesting things out of desperation, and they're not always the best thing to go to. So yeah, definitely a problem. But anyways, getting back to this particular topic is, I think the biggest thing I want to emphasize with this is that the reasons why we tend to lose the closest people in our lives. So this, I think, happens due to multiple reasons. I think the reason why we lose friends in particular is because we just can't go out as much as what we would like. So eventually they stop asking. And I think the best way you can be a good friend to someone in the situation with has a chronic illness is never stop inviting them out, but kind of expect if they're having a rough time that they might say no, but never expect them, never like stop asking them, because it's a very isolating thing to get diagnosed with something. We get as frustrated because we're trying to manage this new scenario and we can't get out and do the things we want to do. Like, it's a really difficult situation. So yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so the next one I want to get into is something that sounded so simple could be so hard at the same time. So when I was first diagnosed with IIH and migraines, it became really difficult because when I searched IIH online, I think we all tend to do that to a certain degree. I actually searched this after I had my MRI because I had actually, in the MRI, they had enough information at the time to go, okay, we have a direction, but they ended up having to do a bunch of extra testing just to confirm it, basically. So I had the initial MRI that kind of helped rule out everything that maybe like brain tumor, MS, stuff like that. And then when they seen those signs, which was actually partial empty cell syndrome, and there was some other things that I read in the radiology report. It probably isn't even up on my records anymore because it's been so long now. But that was one thing. So when that information was given, I was also referred to an ophthalmologist because I was having double vision. They wanted to find out why. Now, when I initially had that, I don't think I had, when I had the referral, you'd have to go back in my videos now, but when I had that initial referral, I didn't actually have the MRI results, but then I did by the time I seen the ophthalmologist the first time. So when I seen the ophthalmologist, they're like, you have swollen optic nerves, and this is probably a sign based upon your medical history and the fact that I think I told them about the MRI results as well. They're like, it really does sound like it's IIH, which is idiopathic intracranial hypertension, but we have to have the lumbar puncture in order to officially confirm that. So then I had the lumbar puncture done, and I knew immediately because I asked them when I had the pressure read in, the opening pressure taken. Mine was 35, and I think anything above 25 when you're overweight is considered to be a problem. So yeah, but so getting into this, the fact that something that sounded so simple to manage online was actually a very long marathon of a journey. So I'm gonna go to my, oops, nope, trying to do? Studio mode. I'm actually just going to transition this back here. So when, okay, this one is the one I want. So let's see here. So when you search what is IIH on Google, this is initially what comes up. So idiopathic intracranial hypertension happens when high pressure around the brain causes symptoms like vision changes and headaches. So the vision changes for me would have been the double vision, as well as some blurred vision as well. And the headaches are a major symptom, although I remember one or two what I would consider very, very severe headaches with the pulsing before I was actually diagnosed. I had one that was so severe I still remember it actually. But when you search, if you look here, how serious is IIH curable? This is what came up for me. So for the longer term, weight loss is necessary for the treatment of IIH that is brought on by obesity. A number of investigators have shown that weight loss is a cure for patients with IIH due to obesity. Now what's interesting is that when you look at that initial word of idiopathic, this is what comes up because the most common form of IIH is in those who are obese, yet they say it's a cure. And the most interesting thing to me is that although they're using the term idiopathic, it's almost like they've jumped to the cause of obesity. Now, because my IIH is in remission and I lost weight, I'm actually convinced this is the case for me, but I think it's much more complicated. And when you just go into this and you search it just like this, it's, I think, a little bit misleading when you look it up or when a family member looks it up, because it makes it look like, oh, you lose weight, it goes away. When the reality is weight loss is just kind of the first step, and for some of us it works and for others it doesn't. So in general, it takes a weight loss of 10 to 20% of your body weight to cure IIH. So when I was diagnosed with IIH, I was 187 pounds. Now, I am about 5'2.5" for my height. So I believe my BMI was about 34, 35 at the time. Now, we all have our issues with the BMI scale, but eventually it does tell you like you're very overweight. And at that point, I was very overweight. I was not, dismissing the fact that, no, it's not just a little bit. Like now, I'm probably between 135 and 140, depending on the time of month, how much water I've had, how much I've been eating, have I been falling off my weight loss, all of that kind of stuff. And so I think that's important to mention too. But so when you search like these simple questions, it makes it seem like the condition is very easy to manage and very easy to cure. But the reality is that it's not that easy to cure. Like, it just isn't. So, let's see here. Sorry guys, my nose got itchy there. Scene with Notes app, and so I just want to pull this back up here, and all right, so I am just now getting to understand how to thrive with both IIH and migraines. I was initially diagnosed with both IIH and migraines in 2018. So September 6, 2018 is when I actually started, or got the diagnosis. September 7th, 2018 is when I started on the acetazolamide, or the Diamox. Diamox is just the brand name for acetazolamide, for those of you who aren't aware. And so essentially what that means is that okay, I just gotta find out where I am here. Okay, gotta go back to this one. There we go. So it's getting back to this. So I am just now, like I said, getting to understand how to thrive with both IIH and migraines. It's been a journey and a half, basically. So it's been really, really hard trying to understand how to manage these conditions, because when I first initially looked at the information, it was really difficult to understand that this was not going to be a simple thing. And I remember actually kind of, I don't know if it was my ophthalmologist picked it up that, I was getting frustrated, but my ophthalmologist told me that it would be a long journey. And even if things went perfectly fine, it would take a while before things would get better. And I'm kind of happy I was told this, because it was really frustrating at the start and all of that. And because of how frustrated I did get at one point, which, like I have said, my lowest point was 2018 through 2019, I say was what my lowest point was. It's still really hard for me to convey how frustrating it was. And actually getting into that, if you guys remember, this is the chart that I refer to a lot in this. So the fact that this is never really something that has gone away, this particular circle, so overdoing it, getting symptoms, being unable to do anything, and then you rest up, you might have a good day and the cycle just repeats again. This is something that I've had to come to terms with. And even being off of the medication, it's something that has never completely basically gotten better. So, it's been a really big thing to try and manage this entire thing. Okay, it's really annoying when my nose gets so itchy. So, now we'll just get into the third one here. So, the amount of changes that I've had to make. Sorry about that, guys. My allergies are really, really bad this year. So, anyways, yeah, the amount of changes that I've had to make over the past few years has been numerous. So, let's go back to this one. So the amount of changes I've had to make just to be able to live my life, everything takes so much more planning now. From the order I'm going to get ready for work, to how I'm going to manage the next stretch of shifts. Sometimes I just can't do the things I want to do because it will mean putting myself at risk of overdoing it. So getting back to this one photo here. So let's say that I'm wanting to do a couple of workouts in a week and wanting to essentially, have a full work week, wanting to maybe go out and do something with friends. Well, doing all three of those things in 1 week will lead me to this exact situation. So when you overdo it, you end up with symptoms of overdoing it, which varies depending and is not consistent whatsoever. And it doesn't always end up in completely being stuck in bed, unable to do anything, but good chances are that you'll be at least so sore that you can't really focus. Good chances are that you'll be with a major headache, because those are some of the main symptoms, right? There's a good chance that you'll be really, really tired, like even more tired, which fatigue is completely different than tired. I've talked about that many times before. But so it's not just that you're unable to get out of bed. So it's not like when I overdo it that it's either no symptoms or stuck in bed. It could be a combination. And then you're forced in that case to rest up. And I think out of everything, the knowing my limits has been probably one of the most beneficial things I've gotten out of this whole situation. But then when you have another good day, and this may take a while, like it's not like it's something that happens immediately, but you may end up with another good day, and then you may end up overdoing it. And actually, there are some times too where you may be having a good month with your migraines. Like let's say before your IIH. So let's say that's the case, and maybe you're able to get away with a little bit more. All of a sudden, you have symptoms again, and you're in a bit of a flare-up. So let's say it's like some of the other chronic illnesses where, I think people with fibromyalgia tend to go through this, chronic fatigue syndrome, definitely IIH. You can have different times where you're less functional because you're stuck in a flare-up. And so you may all of a sudden go from I can do a bunch of things to I'm lucky to just be able to manage to like do my job, or maybe one workout a week. Like you go from so many different situations really quickly because how stable you are changes. So I think that's something that is not really all that emphasized that much. So like I said, everything takes so much planning. So it's not just, oh, I want to do this event. Like I want to be able to go to this event with my friends. I want to be able to have a good week at work. I want to be able to do like a whole list of things. It's not just the planning for the actual bigger things in your day, but could be like when you're having a really rough time, it's getting ready to do all of those things as well. So, what do I mean by this? Well, so when you're going through all of this, you have to manage for the fatigue, and the fatigue infiltrates every part of your life. So it starts out, you wake up and you may feel okay. You may be like, okay, today's going to be a good day. I'm going to be able to manage today perfectly fine. Well, you get up and let's say you got to have a shower. Okay, I'm feeling good. I got this. I can do this. Well, you get out of the shower and all of a sudden you're hit like this with a fatigue. And it hits you like you're being punched in the jaw. Like I can't describe it any other way except for it hits you so hard and so fast, and all of a sudden you feel like you go back to bed. Okay, you push through that. I tend to have to still push through this actually. So when when I say planning, I mean you have to plan, okay, how much rest do I need in between getting out of bed and having a shower? How much rest do I need after my shower before I start getting ready for the day? How much rest do I need after I finish my day before I can do this other thing that I want to do, whether that be a workout, or let's say you want to do your workout in the morning. So let's say you get up, you want to have a small breakfast, and you want to do a workout, and you want to have a shower, and then you want to go throughout your day. Well, there's periods of rest that if you're able to get away with it, that's when you do it. That's when you essentially have to start doing that meticulous planning. And you may find you get to the, let's say, the stretching of your workout, and you find you've done too much. Well, that's a problem when you have other things you want to do in a day. And so now when I'm planning, I have to plan it so that I take into account every single factor. So this was something I was completely unprepared for. This, I want to say, has gotten easier with time, but there are times when it's still really difficult to manage because the amount that I can handle changes based upon how I'm feeling and depending on factors that may be out of my control, like the weather or where I am in my menstrual cycle, or, you know, there's so many things that factor into this. And I guess that's the biggest thing I wanted to emphasize with that. So, okay. I believe that's kind of everything I wanted to mention. That was a really long section, but, you know, really important things to emphasize in that. So getting into the next one, small things are a very big deal. So when you reach a certain point where you kind of, I talked about this and I probably really should make a photo to try and emphasize this point more. But you know how I've talked about how you have a peak, you go down into a valley and you come back up again, right? Well, I hit my valley probably around, I would say it was April, May of 2019 was my lowest. So that's when I was on the pyramid. And I mentioned that, I think, in my previous stream. I don't know, because that was 2 weeks ago now. But how getting so low makes everything now, even small things, feel so good. An example of this, not missing work, even when I have major, or not major, even when I have minor migraine symptoms. Not missing out on events with friends because I'm unable to get out of bed or even just don't have the energy to go out. And like, these small things are a huge deal. In 2018 and 2019, I went down into a deep valley, as I was just describing. I was so frustrated with medication not working. I was so frustrated because it felt like my weight loss also wasn't working. I also just wanted my old life back before I was sick. So there was physical, mental, emotional challenges in this that I just don't think people truly understand. So it's not just the physical pain. It's not just the physical fatigue. It's not just the, you know, it's not just those physical symptoms that are frustrating with these conditions. It's the fact that you start getting frustrated because you're missing time with your friends. You're missing out on major life milestones often because you're on medication. You're trying to figure out how you're going to get better. So you're putting things on hold because you're expecting the future to be better than the past. Because, well, I have an answer now. I should be able to figure out how to get this under control, right? Not necessarily. So at the start, I think I was also, I didn't make a title slide for this, but I think I was unprepared for not only how long the journey was going to be, but the frustrations I would have trying to find a medication that worked. I'm lucky to have found one, actually, because getting IIH might seem like it's fairly simple. Like, well, weight loss worked for me. But I honestly still think that the reason why I have migraines today is because IIH somehow resulted in a pathway that caused them. I didn't have chronic headaches until I had IIH. So headaches were not common for me before I had IIH. I had never had a migraine in my life before this whole situation. Like, I barely got headaches. I think the only time I got headaches was like when I had a sinus cold or whatever, and your sinuses would get plugged and you get headaches. So I get them like here. And those headaches are not fun, right? Like, I think we can all agree, those of us who have them, those are not fun. But I don't think people quite understand how frustrating that situation is. So, like, I went from not having headaches at all to having, I think at the worst, I had a straight headache for months. I don't even remember because I don't have much memory of a lot of my headaches. Like, because it's so much pain, I often try and get, like, I just don't have a great memory from them. And often my memory is affected when I do have severe migraines or when I had IIH headaches as well. It's like there's a block in time, basically. So yeah, that's, I think, really important to mention too. And so I mentioned this before, but I am extremely happy these days, and I think it's because I'm not only not dealing with a lot of pain anymore, but the things that used to be so difficult to do are now a little bit easier to do. It's not like it's completely solved any situation, but it's gotten to the point where things are just a lot better than what they used to be. And it's gotten to the point where, because I hit such a low, that things now feel so much better. Sorry if my eyes are funky. I'm wondering actually if I've been dealing with a migraine for the past week, because I've been so tired, and I am really tired because I have been working more, but I'm just not feeling 100%. Now, I've actually been feeling better over the past few days, and this actually makes a lot of sense to me because I am on my period right now. So if it was a migraine, it was timed almost perfectly. Also, weather and periods don't mix with me when they're changing at the same time. So yeah, I apologize if that's TMI for some people, but it's the reality of my situation with migraines. So yeah, I talk about menstruation too because it's a factor, and hormonal things are definitely a factor. So it's the reality of the situation. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's a lot of what I wanted to talk about, actually. Yeah, I don't really know. I feel like we've kind of covered a lot of this. So one of the things that I used to not really understand how much was affecting me emotionally and mentally was missing out on things that were like more social. So I emphasize a lot, actually, that I am quite introverted. So like, if you were to give me the choice between watching YouTube at home or going out and doing something with a group of people, almost guaranteed I'm going to pick being by myself. And this is especially true now that I have a public facing job. Like, I use almost all my battery, not only social battery, not only physical battery with work, but my social battery a lot of the time is also maxed in the negative red by the time I'm done. And so, but if I was to bring up something here, I think the thing I want to emphasize is just how much I kind of missed out on, and you know, how much I just struggled mentally and emotionally with having to miss out on things. And it wasn't necessarily with friends, because I have a hard time making friends. I always have. But it was with family too. So I used to get really frustrated, not being able to have the energy to go out for dinner, once every couple of weeks. Because when I was dealing with the height of my illness, I wasn't getting out of the house except for those few times. So when I got really, really sick, when I had something planned, often that meant I wouldn't be doing something for a bit again. And so I wasn't able to get out and do the things that I do nowadays. And because now I'm, very out in public, it's completely different now, because, that both of those batteries drain pretty much at the same rate. And I'm lucky to have that, actually. And I wonder how much more difficult this would have been if I was more extroverted in my personality, because this was frustrating being an introvert. I can't imagine what it's like to go from, being able to do and want to go out and do a bunch of things, and then having to pretty much feel like your life all of a sudden just flips on a dime. And that's honestly how I would describe it. Even for me, being very introverted, I felt like my entire life just flipped on a dime. Like one day I felt perfectly fine, and then the next day it was like completely flip. I don't want to do anything at all. And I think this is a protective mechanism in a way, because you're like, oh, well, I just need to rest. Like, I'm just way overtired. And at the time it made sense, because I was at the end of my degree and I was pushing burnout in a different way. I'm not going to get into that on here because it'll go in a completely different direction. But I honestly just thought, oh, I just need some more rest. I'm just exhausted. When the reality is that wasn't the full picture. I was actually sick. And so it was more than just what it appeared to be. So yeah, I don't really talk about that much, because talking about it is kind of interesting. But maybe I should do a video, and let me know if you guys want me to, but I can do a video about the sudden changes like that if you want me to. I'd have to probably come back and watch this in order to see what I was getting at, because I probably won't remember by the time I do another live stream, but we'll see. But yeah, the getting like feeling so low mentally and emotionally is something that I feel like isn't talked about enough. And it's because it's difficult to talk about, and it's also not obvious and objective. Like, you're not just talking about symptoms, you're talking about so much more than that. Like, I think it's easy to talk about the symptoms because there's something there that's easy to talk about and describe, but it's completely different when you're talking about something mentally and emotionally, because it's a little bit more of a nuanced topic, I think. So yeah, I think it's just harder to talk about. Yeah, so I don't know, guys. I think that's probably it for this one. I think it's been a good thing, actually. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna end this one. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know I should try and get better with, actually setting up the stream so that people have time to actually find out about the stream. But these are kind of hard to decide whether I'm gonna actually have the energy to do them these days. So we'll see. I'll keep playing around with it and hoping that it actually does end up okay. But yeah, so I think that's it for this one, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now. Okay, I think we'll do stop.